So say whatever you want to say now. Oh, wait, I think your mic was muted for it, but mine wasn't, so they at least got to hear my reaction.
Good.
All right. Well, we're live. Are you live with me?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, are you ready for a podcast, Justin?
I am ready for a podcast, yes.
Sick. Okay, here we go. Hello there, everyone. Well, we're not including that, are we?
No, go ahead.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast that's available in 7 different languages. I am Corey. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing tonight?
I don't know if the shrieking that I put into the microphone counts as a language, but it's just me screaming, and I just upload that. And it's kind of hard to find, but it is out there.
Well, that's why it sometimes takes longer to get the episode posted, because you got to go the whole runtime of just shrieking. And if your voice doesn't hold out for all of it, we got to hold off on uploading.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, we've got some fun Star Wars news, some fun Star Wars Twitter drama to talk about tonight, as well as a triumphant return to Star Wars: The New Jedi Order. Not any of that old, gross Jedi Order. New Jedi Order, Edge of Victory 2, Rebirth. This one.
Yep. So yeah, very special episode today. And if you're listening, I think Corey and I might record something special. Are we going to do that, Corey?
Yeah, I think we'll take a minute or two for that.
Yeah, I'll just explain it. The embargo is almost up. There's what's called a social review embargo for Andor that's ending in 3 hours, I think it is, right, Corey?
4. Is it
4
I think
hours.
It's midnight P. No, is it midnight PST or ET? Either way, it's a few hours away.
Either way, a few hours away. So if you're listening to this live, unfortunately, we can't share our quick thoughts on it. But if you're listening, I think we might record something, and maybe I will just splice it in right here in a second once I'm done getting the sentence out. So if you are listening and you want to skip this, just go ahead. It'll probably not be longer than 5 minutes. I'll put a timestamp.
Yeah, well, those were some great thoughts on Andor, Justin. Thank you for putting those in.
No problem.
But do you want to go to news first? There's a few news pieces. Or do you want to go into talking about other people's takes on Andor? We're going to stay entirely spoiler-free for that. Not that there'd be any spoilers we can give for that, but
yeah.
So which we on?
Let's keep on the Andor train.
All
and
right.
do you want to give since we are a Star Wars podcast, although I don't really feel like we're a Star Wars podcast, because I feel like a lot of the Star Wars podcasts know and hate each other, and we kind of don't know the other ones that well. So I feel like we're doing the very appropriate thing of sticking our nose into other people's business, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we normally try to stay out of the Twitter drama, but this I think annoyed both of us in a similar way. So basically, what's happened is with all of the with a lot of Disney stuff, they do early previews for some people. They do this with a lot more with Marvel, actually, but they do it sometimes with Star Wars. Andor, they've actually been doing it for a month and a half for Andor at this point, where there have been some people who have been able to see the show early. But of course, if you are sent that early, that comes with an embargo on being able to put out any reviews, any social media impressions of the show, even really being able to say that you got the show in some cases. But what happened
it's called an embargo. For those who don't know, it's just a limit. It's like a date when you can, when you can talk about things. And if you talk about it before then, you're breaking the embargo.
Yeah. So you sign paperwork for this, legally binding. If you break it, then Disney is allowed to come and repossess your house. That's my understanding of it, and maybe taught differently in lawyer school.
Yeah, I mean, more likely when you break an embargo, which does happen all the time. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had lots of embargo breakers who were quite famous for taking away some of EA's big announcements. Usually they just kick you out of the program, which if you're a journalist and you're covering something like Andor, it's a big deal. Because that's like a week of traffic that your site's not going to get, and even more. So it can be a big deal. So you don't want to break embargo. So you can go ahead and continue.
So there's someone named John Campea who I have seen peripherally, but I don't really know much of anything about him. And he put up on his channel his full review and thoughts on Andor. I think
I don't think he
episodes.
actually went through with it.
No.
I think he gave like a brief impression on
Yeah.
Twitter, and then he was going to do a live stream today and kind of held back from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, there was also the video where I think he did give some thoughts in the video where he explained how he saw it, where he was not under the embargo because he had asked to have himself removed from the Star Wars mailing list and all that, so he didn't get the invite. But
which I think was after, because I know a little bit about him, not very much. I think that was after. Remember, he had that whole thing where it was like, I've been working my ass off for 20 years for Star Wars because he didn't get the Galaxy's Edge thing.
Was that him? I thought that was someone else.
Or was
I think that was someone else.
Harloff?
That was Harloff.
Okay, was that okay? They're all these Collider people. I don't understand it because like I never have ever watched any of it.
Yeah.
So it's all very strange to me. Like I don't understand why people. Again, no one's. I'm not trying to insult these people. I'm really not. I just don't understand why people watch these shows. But anyway,
why does anyone watch ours? You're playing with fire there, Justin. But
I still agree.
Yeah, me too.
I 100% agree.
I was at a wedding, so I'll tell this after. But anyways, so he was not invited to watch the show, so he didn't sign anything. It was sent to him, but one of his friends was invited to watch the early preview of the show. And basically, the way it works is you get a link. They have like a whole platform where you can watch whatever they're inviting you to watch. And it's very explicit that you don't show this to anyone else. You have to sign the paperwork. It's all up to you. But it says, yeah, don't show this to anyone else. And his buddy invited him over to watch the show, so he got to see someone else's copy of it. Well, that person was under embargo. Now, this caused a shitstorm on Twitter and other platforms where a lot of people were upset saying, oh, he can just break embargo however he wants. And people getting very upset at him for doing this early. Now, Justin, would you like to explain to me and everyone else what that actually means?
Yeah, so when Corey says a lot of people were angry, in reality, what he means is a lot of media people were angry because they felt like he was undercutting them. And he totally was, because, you know, he was posting reviews and stuff before they would. But you know what? Like, that's his right. If he has it, he's not under, like, Disney can't unilaterally say any person who watches Andor before a certain date isn't allowed to talk about it. What they can do is they can put an embargo out to certain people who get the thing. But hey, if I watch through Corey's window when he's watching the show, there's nothing they can do to stop me. And I honestly, ethically, morally, I think that what he did is nowhere near kind of, when it comes to the whole leak culture, like where people go in and they actually, like, and his reaction was pretty mild. Like, he said he really liked the show, which is pretty much all anyone can say. Either they really liked it or they really didn't like it until full reviews drop. And it's just like that. It's nothing. Like, people are getting angry probably because he's like one of the bigger people in the space. And it's ridiculous. I've been rolling my eyes nonstop all day today, basically.
Yeah, like, ultimately, he didn't sign anything for this. If they were able to find out who his friend was who showed it to him, that person would absolutely get kicked out of any access that they have. And if he were still on their list, I could definitely, like, they'd be within their right to tell him, no, even though you didn't break anything here, you broke kind of the spirit of what that's for, and then they could rescind access to him in the future. But as it is, he was not under any sort of agreement. He was shown this thing, and he put out his thoughts on it. And it's hugely ironic to me, as you were saying, that a lot of the people who are kind of most vocal on this are people who very often do engage in leaks. So they might be embargoed for certain things, but for things that they're not embargoed on, they will very happily go and share their leaks. And they don't...
Entire plots of the movies. Like, these were people that were sharing entire plots of the movies. They were tweeting out, you know, when, like, oh, Ahsoka's going to appear in Mando, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah,
So
it's it's kind of selective outrage over, oh, you're not following the rules this time because it affects me.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it is a risk because there is a risk to him. The downside is, yeah, he doesn't get invited to any more things. Disney's not going to be happy with him. That's the risk he takes. And I
yeah,
would probably do the same thing. Like if I didn't care, like I do get reviews for the books, which is kind of the bigger thing for me, and some of the shows. It's really
yeah,
not that much. They often don't send them out. So I wouldn't personally do it because, I'm on the list and I enjoy being on the list. But if I wasn't and I knew I wasn't going to be, fuck it, why not?
yeah, yeah. So like, he had no agreement with Disney. He didn't do anything wrong. His buddy did. People can be
Hmm.
angry at his buddy for doing that and not facing the consequence of being removed from it, because there's no way they're really able to find out unless he lives in the middle of some.
Yeah.
I think he's probably in LA. I'm not 100%
LA
sure
or
on
New
that
York is
because
like,
he's,
yeah.
yeah, like if you're in a big city, then there's going to be a few people who probably know each other and work there. But if you've
Yep.
lived in the middle of like a village somewhere, then it's like, oh, there's those two people. It's probably him. But
Yep.
aside from that, it's like, yeah,
Yeah. Totally. No, I totally agree. It's ridiculous. People are just,
yeah.
it's stupid. But anyway, what other Star Wars news? I don't know why my webcam is. Hey, smarten up. I don't know why my webcam has done that. Any other news you want to cover before we get into the book?
Yeah, so there's two more things that have kind of solidified since last time. There is a confirmation of the Bad Batch being delayed until January, which I don't think we knew as of the last episode,
Nope.
which not super unexpected. I thought maybe it would be back on late September, but honestly,
I thought September, yeah.
doesn't bother me that much. We're literally going to have a show from now until the end of time. So it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like it's a delay because they're upset with production. It seems like it's a delay where it's
Just a
just like,
marketing thing.
yeah, there's just going to be so much stuff coming up. And especially if they try to push it back to not deal or to not overlap with Andor as much, they're going to be overlapping with another very similar animated show
Mhm.
in Tales of the Jedi. So I'm not too broken up about it.
Makes our job a little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second one is that, shock of all shocks, Rogue Squadron has been removed from the release schedule in 2023, which I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. I'm not even going to guess what it means. It's just whatever's going on with that movie. Like, I really hope, and I think they have, that they've learned not to kind of overpromise because it's just going to make people really disappointed.
Yeah.
So I don't want any more movie announcements until there's pretty much time. Like, I would prefer if the next movie was announced with a trailer, which it's not going to happen. And like nowadays, where, as we said, fucking leakers will, you know,
Leak.
I just don't. Yeah, the leak it. I just don't think it's likely. But yeah, like that's how I would prefer it, because right now something Star Wars gets announced, especially with like the video game stuff we've had, the TV show stuff we have, it's like there seems like a less than 50% chance it ever gets made.
Yeah.
Rangers of the New Republic, that fucking Star Wars Eclipse, the Ryan Johnson trilogy of movies, the other trilogy of movies that never happened, the Taika movie, is that gonna happen? I don't know. I kind of hope not after watching the fucking recent Thor, which was horrendous. No, I still like Taika, but yeah, like what's going on?
Yeah, it seems like they were trying to get to the point of like Marvel's phase and wave plans way too quickly before they were actually
Mhm.
ready with the content. And regardless
Mhm.
of what your opinion is on what is too much or too little Star Wars or Marvel, at least Marvel, when they say something's coming out, it seems like they have a lot of the systems in place. Development is a lot more smooth in how they're able to get people on board. Uh, but yeah, like with the movies, the biggest thing does seem to have been the scheduling for all the directors, and the fact that so many things got announced before anything was really solidly locked down means that it's going to be a lot of waiting.
It doesn't help that there have been multiple times where Star Wars directors have been kind of lined up for something and then have dropped some sort of stinker. Like it was John Trevorrow. Colin Trevorrow was the Book of Henry? Was that the movie he made that people really didn't like?
I don't know, but like Jurassic World is Jurassic World.
I mean, yeah, but it's also like, and then for for the Rogue Squadron one, it was the Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's what like
I never seen it, so
I think the whole positively or negatively received element is what fans or the public latch onto the most. But I think the biggest thing really is just the scheduling for everyone, where like I think people over-index on they put out this movie that people didn't like. I think like the closest you get with that is Benioff and Weiss, the Game of Thrones showrunners. But I don't think it's so much how the Game of Thrones finale was received that would have impacted their standing so much as the feeling that they rushed through the series and ended up with a bad working relationship with everyone involved.
But they finished Solo before that happened, though, didn't they?
That wasn't Benioff and Weiss. That was the other two comedy guys. Benioff and Weiss were going to do a different set of movies after Game of Thrones, and then they got dropped.
Right. Yeah.
I forget the names of the people that Ron Howard took over from for Solo.
Yeah. There was another pair of people.
Yeah.
Just it sucks. The Benioff and Weiss one kind of sucks. Again, knowing obviously nothing about them, because they seem to be the ones who really wanted to do Star Wars, because there is the rumor that they kind of rushed through Game of Thrones and kind of as Charlie would say, truncated the timeline somewhat so they could have time for their movies, and then they kind of sounds like they got fucked over a little bit, and they didn't seem to be too happy about it.
Like that one seems to be the one where it's like more they're doing than any of the other ones, though. But like Star Wars still would have been there had they taken 2 extra years on the show, like George R.R. Martin and HBO wanted to do. But either way, so maybe someday we'll get another Star Wars movie. Until then, we have 30 shows that are definitely coming out, and games that we might see someday.
The first 4 episodes of Andor is like the first, however, like you get a movie's worth of time in 4 episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're about a half an hour long. So yeah.
So do you want to get to some new Jedi Order now? Is that anything else that we're missing out on?
No, I think I'm good. What are we doing next week, by the way?
Next week we are doing Andor.
Right, and then Lost Stars.
Are we going to do Lost Stars after that?
I think we said we were.
Okay, do we want to see if Alex is around?
Yeah, I'll see if Alex is around. I've already finished it. I've read it again already.
You were saying that this afternoon, and I was like, did we lock in with that entirely? But I think we did.
I think we kind of did. But yeah, I liked it a lot more than this book. Not that this book was bad, it's just I liked it more.
All right, you're spoiling like 3 weeks out of your reviews. Oh, there was one other piece of news that we did settle on between the 2 episodes, where technical issues notwithstanding, November 10th will be a live in-person episode of Tapcaf. So I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but we'll be in the same room. I'll be sitting where that fan is, probably. It's going to be great.
I don't think we're going to be able to do it in here. I don't know if I have enough room. Like, literally.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with it. I don't know what the other options are. My hotel room, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we could do it in here. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Like, if we don't do that and we don't do something afterwards, I can't write the trip off. So...
Yeah, we might just be, honestly, rent a fucking room in the library. They've got professional recording equipment there. But we'll figure it out. But yeah, so this was Edge of Victory 2. And I had to give myself a little kind of refresher on what happened with number 1, because all the characters are pretty split up. Starts off with Luke and Mara on one of 100 floating islands 100 kind of artificial islands on Coruscant. And I was thinking, 100 is not a lot for a planet of trillions. Like, that is like the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1% to get one of those islands.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Lando is one of them.
Yeah. So, like, just kind of reminds me, like, how much people would realistically probably, like, hate these people who are always in the middle of shit. In their universe.
I mean, if you have a planet that's this densely populated with very limited water and it's used for these pleasure yachts, like, this is
not great.
Yeah, like, once you get to the dock, there's a fucking guillotine just sitting right at the end.
Yeah.
And that's how Luke and Mara die in Legends.
Yeah, the fucking crowd finally gets to them, and it's not good. But yeah, so we've got that. And then Jason is with his father and his mother.
Mm-hmm.
They're on a little adventure. And we also, unfortunately, get lots of Jaina and Kip Duran in this novel as well. And you texted me today, Corey, and I actually was driving, so I didn't respond. I'm so sorry. But you said, how has Kip never been executed? And this is the book where really, like, it was probably due.
Yeah, like, Kip is... even including the Jedi Academy trilogy, Kip is at his worst in this book.
Yeah, he's trying to bang a 16-year-old.
No, Jaina is 18 now, to be fair, but this is the first, like, I think her and Jason literally just turned 18, and this is the first time that, like, there's some weird groomer shit going on there, and I'm not comfortable with it.
It's not good. It's not good. Just like we talked about, and just like we talked about with Leia and Han for Princess and the Scoundrel, yes, it's legal on Felucia or wherever, the age differences change, but that doesn't mean it's not weird, especially when you're an old family friend who's known Jaina since she was probably 8 years old.
An old family friend who also is in a position of authority at, like, this is like, you have a family friend who works at a McDonald's. They've stuck there. They've become a manager. They're like 32 or something.
This is a weird reference because you worked at McDonald's.
McDonald's is a strange place for workplace relationships. But they were working at McDonald's, and then these kids grew up in the McDonald's break room, training to be McDonald's employees someday. It's starting to fall apart more. And then as soon as she happens to turn 18, she gets her full-time job there, and suddenly the manager is hitting on her. Like, and not even like the daytime manager. Kip's more of a nighttime manager.
Oh yeah,
got
big
kind
time.
of turfed on the night shift because he's this fucking guy. Like,
yeah.
Then he blows. He's awful in this book in basically every possible way.
Yeah. So I'd say so there's a few different storylines going on here. Luke and Mara, their whole thing is just about Mara's having the baby, and she's had to stop taking the artificial Vergier's tears because it's hurting the fetus. And eventually Ben is born, of course, and he's completely healthy. We can talk about that later if you want. Not much to say. It's a nice moment when he's born. They all kind of come together. And actually, let's just knock this out so we don't have to come back. What did you think of that storyline?
It's kind of weird that Mara is kind of declining throughout the book, and there's a lot of weird Force stuff where she's kind of building a Force wall around her uterus to stop the disease from getting in. Then, as a family, they all kind of come together and Force blow the disease out, which I thought was a weird way to end the disease storyline. It just feels like they kind of yada-yada'd it out of the way, which ultimately I don't have a huge problem with. I'm hoping that we get a bit more Mara doing other stuff later on, because I vaguely remember her being a more active participant in the war. Like, I've talked in the prior episodes about how even if she's not on the front lines, like when we have all these big Jedi meetings, Mara isn't even really part of those either. Like, she just talks to Luke about them afterwards. So I'm kind of ready to have that storyline be over with. We get Ben out of it. It being, I guess,
literally
Mara, and so I've got nothing else to say on that.
It's our second birthing scene in the novels because Jaina and Jason come out at once, and Anakin's in the comics. So
is Anakin actually born in the comics, or did he get born slightly before Dark Empire?
I don't remember, actually.
I think he's just kind of there.
Maybe. But yeah, so that's their storyline. We also should mention the big thing, the title of the podcast. Borsk Phalia puts a warrant out for the arrest of Luke Skywalker, which would have been the Bantam name of the book, The Arrest of Luke Skywalker or something.
So I want your legal analysis of this. Luke's arrest warrant, epic or not epic?
I still don't really understand what I guess so. Luke is being arrested for, I guess, fighting the Vong on Yavin during, I guess, what was ostensibly like a peace or a ceasefire. Is that basically the argument?
If he wasn't didn't consider himself so above the legal system, we would have found out exactly what he was charged with. But instead he fled, and now we'll never know. As far
It's
as we
not the
know,
only
it's
time he's
just...
arrested either. Yeah, because he gets arrested in Fate of the Jedi as well.
Is he arrested there, or does he just get told to leave? Isn't Exile, did an arrest lead to it?
No, because remember he gets actually arrested because Noir Ven's his lawyer.
Yeah, and there's all the Kenth stuff where Saba brutally murders him with no provocation whatsoever.
So there's not. I mean, it's a time of wars. I think you could probably arrest whoever you want.
No, it's a time of truce.
Truce, yeah. But I mean, the whole like Yavin's not a neutral planet. Like Yavin is a New Republic planet, and the Yuuzhan Vong were there. So like, I don't quite get.
I don't think it is. I think it's just considered a Jedi planet. And
no, because remember. Okay, sorry. Because Luke. Remember, there's I forget which book it is. I assume Jedi Academy 1, where Luke gets permission from the Senate to build in the old Rebel base.
Yeah, but I think after that he's kind of considered off on his own and secedes, but not secedes.
You see, if I were Luke's lawyer, I would argue that. Yeah, if I were Noir Ven, I would argue that through their action, the New Republic essentially treated Yavin like one of their own planets. In the Jedi Academy trilogy, they put a fleet over Yavin to protect it. They were sending supplies to Yavin. Yavin was discussed like in tactical meetings. So like, I think Yavin's a New Republic planet, and there are New Republic citizens living on Yavin.
But Card was there firing on Peace Brigade people first.
I don't really remember how that went down, to be honest.
The Vong came after the Peace Brigade stuff. And the Vong just wanted to come and scope out the temple.
Yeah, for sure.
They weren't at war with them. They were just coming to say hi. So...
Yep. Anyway, Borsk ends up dropping it at the end of the book. But there's kind of it's not really a hint. It's the fact that the Jedi are becoming a political liability, and he kind of just wants, like, Luke is made aware of before the warrants actually filed or whatever, that they're coming to arrest him, and he's got like 6 hours to get off planet. So it's not like they actually...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not like they actually plan to arrest him. Or at least Borsk kind of let it slip that it was happening, so Luke had enough time to leave. He just wanted Luke off planet for a while.
Yeah, like, it comes across very much as like Borsk set this up so Luke would know.
Yeah.
And Luke would get out. He does tell Luke later, like, I don't want you arrested right now. You might be useful.
Yeah. Like, don't fucking arrest me. What do you mean you don't want me arrested?
He got out. He wouldn't have got... I always felt like Borsk set it up how he did so Kenth could go tell Luke to get the hell out.
I agreed. Another thing, though, is that, like, Luke being arrested would probably start a war on Coruscant, as we see when Luke is escaping and the pesky Coruscant patrol craft try to stop him, and Rogue Squadron has to come. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so at that point, Luke and Jaina meets up with Luke, and then he sends her off to go meet with the child predator known as Kip Duran. And Kip has a very interesting situation. Of course, Luke is still kind of not fully engaged the Jedi in the war. So Kip is off trying to do his own thing, and he comes to Jaina with this plot. He says basically the Yuuzhan Vong are creating a super weapon, and he shows her this image of what looks like this massive vessel or thing channeling extreme amounts of energy. So Jaina goes to Rogue Squadron, who goes to Admiral Crefay, and they kind of create a strike force. And this is actually very slow. It's kind of happens over the entire book. Not actually that much happens with them, but it's split up over the entire book. Anyway, I'll let you kind of continue from there.
Yeah, so Kip has convinced Jaina that Jaina finds him, tries to bring him back into the fold, but Kip's like, we've got this big important thing we got to do. Look at this tape that is not doctored in any way, and I am not misrepresenting. And he shows Jaina the tape or space tape, whatever the fuck it is.
Get his thumb over something, just fucking...
And he's showing that there's like coronal mass ejections coming from a sun that
Almost like
in
Starkiller
Serpital.
Base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kip represents this to Jaina as if they're using the space around Serpital which is the planet they destroyed in the first book, to build or to grow a giant super weapon that can just blow up suns wherever. So kind of like a
Very
mix
much
of
like a center
Starkiller
point
Base and Star.
station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jaina, trusting Kip on this, believing that she's seen it, they enlist all the people that Eck just said, and they have their own little Death Star attack towards the end of the book. And what they find out is that Kip did a tiny little bit of a lie to them, and rather than blowing up a super weapon, what they've blown up is a replacement world ship, which is essentially a huge Yuzon Vong civilian craft where they're all living. And this one was going to take all the inhabitants of some of the older dying world ships. So it was basically a direct attack on just civilian infrastructure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a tactically valid objective because it was also their largest shipyard. They kind of suggest, or one of their largest shipyards, and yeah, I mean, I think like the world ships can be used to move soldiers and stuff as well. Like, I don't think there's really the implication that I don't remember if they actually killed a bunch of civilian Yuzhan Vong as well. But the thing is, Kip doesn't give a shit. He wants to be seen as targeting civilians.
Yeah.
And
because he misrepresented it to Jaina and everyone else.
Yeah.
Knowing they wouldn't have gone along with it.
Worse for Jaina because she's a Jedi, and Jedi shouldn't be doing that.
We do actually get confirmation that this pretty much dooms a bunch of shamed ones. Because it's going to be all the ones from Banu Mir, I think is the one that Nenyim is in place on. So it's an old dying world ship that she's trying to restore, can't, and a lot of them are going to be going to this new world ship that Kip blows up, which at the end, was it Onimi or was it Shimra that tells her, like, no, they're all dead. Like, don't worry about Banu Mir. They're just dead.
Yeah, it was Shimra at the end.
Yeah, so
I still think it's valid to like not allow people to entrench themselves in the galaxy.
I don't think it's fully invalid, but like I think it's entirely outside what the characters involved would have wanted to do.
100%.
And I think Kip is kind of overstating how tactically important this is, because it is just going to result in a bunch of people who the Vong don't really care about dying anyways. It doesn't.
Who are starting to ally with the Jedi already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally correct. And this obviously, while this is happening, Kip not only wants to probably be romantic with Jaina, he also wants to train her.
Yeah.
Yes, which is just, it's not a good idea. Like, why the fuck would you join Kip of all people? Like, Kip's got some, he's got some ideas, and there's a couple that are good, but most of them are predatory or weird or bad.
Yeah.
Like, he's genocided 2 peoples now, maybe. At least one.
Yeah, like I'm more sympathetic to Jedi Academy Kip, where like I do think the original representation of it was that he was essentially possessed by Exarchine, and there wasn't much he could do in that situation.
It was still kind of his fault because he was angry, but you can't hold someone responsible. Yeah, no, for sure.
And I think like leading up to this point, and even a bit beyond, which we'll go into later, but a lot of the authors have kind of gone back and forth on whether Kip did that or Kip didn't do that, and how much Kip is going to be repenting for any of this. And Kip kind of says in this, like, in the meeting with Wedge about how he owes so much to... Bitch. Yeah, he owes so much to Han and Luke, and Wedge is like, yeah, and you just like screwing both of them over, don't you? Because you're just...
Which is an absolutely great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like during that scene, too, where Jaina mentions she wants to pet the Bothan Admiral. Pretty fair. Because he's like, he's got such nice white hair.
Well, did they ever have pets growing up? I don't think so.
Not that I can think
of.
Chewbacca,
Other than like Jason's whole menagerie. So I guess
Oh,
they
yeah.
did, but they didn't have like
Yeah.
well, they did have a family dog because Chewie was around all the time. So
Yeah.
maybe Jaina just thinks of Traced as the new Chewie.
I can see it. I can see it.
It is too bad that later on Trace decides that he wants to do a genocide, though. So
It's pretty common in Star Wars.
can't have them all.
No. No, you can't. Okay, so that's that story. Anything else you want to
Well,
mention for that?
did I miss something, or did the super weapon blow up off screen? Like they're going in, and then the next scene we have with them,
Yeah,
Jaina's like, "Wow, sure is great that exploded."
I think Jaina kind of sees the explosion when because she gets her X-wing gets shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her like Jaina's supposed to be such a good pilot, but like she's been shot down 3 or 4 times already.
She's pretty good. She just isn't like Wedge level yet.
I like my X-wing pilots not shot down. Donald Trump said.
Is Jaina John McCain?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so it does get destroyed off screen, I think. And they also, in the midst of that battle, destroy what they call it the Wampa, right? And it's kind of another Yuuzhan Vong ship.
Well, I think that was like Wampa team kind of situation where they were. I think I did miss some stuff in that because I was reading that and I wasn't entirely clear on what Wampa was there. It seemed like it was a strike group that they had, or the interdictor thing. It might have been a Yuuzhan Vong thing, but I never went back to clarify it.
Yeah, I think that from what I remember, I think they kind of like called it Target Wampa, but I could be misremembering.
No, that makes more sense than what I had.
And,
okay, yeah. Wampa Yuuzhan Vong world ship. A New Republic designation given to Yuuzhan Vong warship that fought at the Second Battle of Cernpidal. It was destroyed by Rogue Squadron. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and they do something kind of interesting here. They kind of pull back a bit to the tactics that Wedge used during Wedge's gamble, or that Rogue Squadron used, where they send in an interdictor first, which kind of generates a gravity bubble, and then they can use it to make a precise hyperspace jump, which is actually pretty smart. And you'd think they could make some sort of technology like that. Like instead of a whole ship, just an interdictor generator. It's got a short life, and then use it to make precise jump, and then it blows up. Because they also take out a bunch of Vong ships with that because it explodes. And the Vong are stupid.
Yep. That is an accurate breakdown of the battle. The Vong are stupid there. Like there's no one really protecting it, and they try to say it's because that battle group is the one that ends up at Yagdul. That seems like a weird positioning of forces. Like Yagdul, south end of the core, Cernpidal, super far north end.
Complete, yeah.
So you'd think
right near it's literally the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah. I do like that Keyes doesn't go into too much detail on exactly how many forces are there for either side, though. Because we know there's Ralroost as the flagship with Crefei on it, but there is mention of like Crefei's other heavy ships.
Yeah, he's got heavy cruisers, it says.
Yeah, so you could really scale that however you need to. And the classic Star Wars author rule of when you define, you confine. So good job on that. But
Totally.
How did you feel about the combat in this book, though? I enjoyed the battles we had mostly, but there wasn't anything super huge.
It's a little wacky. Like there's like C-3PO pushing missiles out of the Falcon at one point. It wasn't bad though. It was fine. A lot of it happened kind of just to move the plot. Like Keyes didn't feel like somebody who really liked writing battles. Like it seemed like a lot of them were kind of just there. Like the characters were experiencing them rather than like it being, like a Michael Stackpole where he's actually writing what's happening in the battle. When it's Jaina, it's like when, say, Jaina gets shot down, or the whole battle, the second battle of Cernpidal, it's literally just kind of Jaina telling what's going on for her. And like you said, we end up missing a lot of it.
Yeah, and we'll have one more battle to kind of talk about with Han and Leia later. But I do want to jump over to the Yuuzhan Vong now, the plot line there.
Oh, yeah.
Savong Law has a little bit of a plot line. He's got like 2 chapters, including the prologue, but primarily Nenyim. So the last time we've seen Savong Law in any kind of detail, he's getting fucked up by Jason. Jason lost his
leg off.
Yeah, he cuts his tendon, so he needs a new leg. And he gets this kind of a leg from this like ancient Yuuzhan Vong creature that hadn't really been seen for a long time. And it talks about how in order to get the leg, he had to beat the creature in like one-on-one combat. So they only needed the leg, but they grew the entire creature, and then he had some sort of like ritualistic duel with it to kill it. Then the Shapers are able to put his leg on. But earlier on, like a page before, it was talking about how he could have asked for a clone of his leg. Mm-hmm. So what I'm wondering is, if they go that direction, do they grow the leg for him, or does he have to fight a clone of himself?
I don't think he'd. Because
it feels like the way they framed it.
A clone of him. I feel like what they'd probably do is like make some sort of like giant crab or something, with that had his leg like on his shell, and he had to kill the crab and cut his own leg off, and then, you know.
I don't know. I feel like,
or maybe they clone himself, and it's like the best. Maybe you get a new fucking Supreme Overlord. Yeah. What you do is you create a clone of yourself who's missing the other leg, and then the first person to complete themselves, they're the new. Yeah.
Everyone's just hopping around in the duel.
Yeah.
Yeah, War Master. Yeah. If the clone wins that, though, don't you just like kill the clone too because the person has deemed themselves unworthy? And like they don't know everything. It's just like a feral, untrained, because it doesn't seem like they do flash learning or whatever.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But Savon Law later on in the book does get news that Vergier, who we haven't seen in a couple books now, has turned back up and has some news for them. She will only tell this news to Savon Law. And I think we have to wait like 20 chapters between that announcement and actually seeing what happens there, maybe 30.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of chapters in this book for a short one. There's like 45 or 47 chapters.
For a sub 300 book page book.
Yeah. Yeah, I always scroll through it at the beginning, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many chapters, it's going to take me forever. And then I'm like, oh, I'm already on chapter 16.
Yeah.
I've just been reading this during my first dump of the day. It's like crazy.
But Vergier tells Savon Law that Jason is traveling around with Han, which we're going to get to soon. And does anything else really happen with Vergier and Savon? I think it's not a super eventful plot line.
No, not really.
I just wanted to talk about fighting a clone of himself.
The much more kind of important Fong stuff is the Nenyums.
Yeah.
And this is where also we do get some Noma Nor stuff. And I've been talking about this throughout the series. I've got space in my mind for like, this is kind of the issue with the usual. I've got space in my mind for like 4 of them max, because the names, they're not human names. They're weird. So it's like, I can remember 4 of them. So it's like, whenever Noma Nor is meaning all of these, Yu Zhanvong, when he's on the station, it's like, I know him, everyone else, best of luck. Like, I don't got space in my brain for your name.
But you can remember fucking Ton Fannin? Asir Sayla?
Yeah. But I can remember them because, like, I can remember Ton Fannin because, you know, he's got an interesting story. And I still don't remember most of the specifics other than his death. And with Asir, I remember her because just I just can't imagine a sexy Bothan, and that's supposed to be her thing. And it doesn't
I don't think that's supposed to be her thing. That Gavin finds her to be a sexy Bothan, but it's not like she's just there to be a sexy Bothan.
But for real though, like I forget most people in those novels, except for the ones you mentioned. The Rogue Squadron novels, like most of them are gone.
So I do think I actually like Nenyim, so I remember her.
Oh, Nenyim is one that I do remember.
Right,
Nenyim is one that I remember. Yeah,
but this is another subplot where it's like the men just get made as creepy as possible. Because like we get the K-Quad at the end, who basically calls her, like decides that Nenyim is not a good name and renames her to like Nen Sup, which is it seems to be like calling her Nen Whore or Nen Slut or something.
Or like Nim Snow almost from like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Well,
it's like the bastard name.
Well, it's like explicitly some sort of gross sex act that he's trying to say, and then he's like, you little minx, whenever she says it, as if like she's trying to sleep with them or something. But there was also the when she's been disgraced after her master Shaper Mizan Quad died in the last book. And so now she's been sent to the world ship we were talking about, that is close to dying. There's no master there. It's just like a dead end appointment where she's probably supposed to die ultimately. But she's kind of continuing the heresy of uh, just doing
She's
whatever.
exploring beyond the technology gifted by the gods, basically.
Yeah. And so there was, I think it was a master who was there initially, or there was stories about a master.
Yeah.
I forget the details of it because I did read that.
Everyone's been moved off the world ship, basically, except her. She's the one adept there, and she doesn't have access to the right knowledge to fix. Basically, the brain of this world ship it's old as fuck, like probably tens of thousands of years old, and it's dying, and the ship is falling apart.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have access. She thinks there might be the knowledge necessary to fix the world ship in kind of the further cortexes, like the deeper, like she's basically Anakin in episode 3. She needs to get into the fucking Jedi archives to try to see how to save try to save Palpatine, but Padme, but instead of Padme, it's the world ship.
Yeah. We should have probably talked about the parallels there with Luke and Mara a bit, but whatever.
Fuck it. But yeah, so what she ends up finding, because this master does come, but as Corey kind of mentions, he's completely fucking out to lunch. There's this really funny, it's kind of funny too, because we read it mostly from Nen Yem's perspective, and
he's high as shit is basically the...
Yeah, and Nen Yem is basically like, she just realized she decided it was time to kill him after all.
Yeah.
And she's basically ready to kill him. It turns out, however, that the Shaper isn't actually a Shaper. He gives her access to the Yuuzhan Vong's kind of knowledge base, kind of knowing that she was going to look past where she should, and she finds out that the gods have nothing left for them. And after kind of coming to that realization, she's taken to meet Shimra. This is the first time we've met him, right?
I think there was one other meeting with him.
I think the other big reveal was Savon Law. Anyway, it turns out that this Shaper wasn't actually a Shaper. It's Onimi, who we'll find a lot more about later. But at this point, is basically just supposed to be the jester of the Supreme Overlord.
Yeah.
And he's kind of he knows too. Shimra acknowledges that the gods, like, there's nothing else. Like, there's no other secret. So he's basically, what we get at the end of the book is him setting her up to kind of find that further knowledge.
Yeah. So Shimra, the knowledge they've been getting throughout the war hasn't been, these are the things the gods sent us. It's basically Shimra with his private weapons development filtering it out to everyone else. But there had been a master Shaper on the world ship before Nen Yem got there, and the adept that she was working with, or the initiate that she was working with, the lower rank, didn't really know anything about shaping. So Nen Yem was asking, like, what did the last master Shaper do with you? Like, why are you so useless? And the guy tells her that his job wasn't to do any shaping, it was just to tell him stories, where he took Yuuzhan Vong children's tales and had to modify them to be more adult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a bunch of... This is where all the creepy master Shapers go.
Yeah, it's basically like putting them out to pasture in the old fucking dying world ship that's still outside the galaxy because it can't even go faster than light anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really the highest posting ever.
No.
And everyone knows, like, she doesn't quite realize this, but the ship's dead. Like, it's not salvageable.
Yeah. Well, she kind of realized it, but she's hoping she can discover something. She ultimately finds out she can't, but at least she gives it a nice try.
She gives it the old college try. And maybe she could have, had she, not been called to a higher purpose and actually been able to experiment and find new kind of new protocols and stuff. But yeah, she's called to a higher purpose, and she's like, yeah, actually, I don't give a fuck about these people, really.
Yeah.
The New Republic killed them.
Yeah.
Because they blew up the new world ship. When, like, let's be honest, Shamed Ones probably weren't going to be moved to the world ship. They probably would have used it for something else.
I don't know. I think they were still going to put... Like, most of the world ships, the people on them are either shamed ones, or there's got to be like a normal people cast as well. We never really see that. I don't think it's just like warriors, intendants, prefects, priests, and shamed ones. You'd think there has to be something a bit more, like the
builders,
shopkeepers. And,
I guess,
well, builders are shapers.
Builders would be shapers, yeah. I actually think that that the Yuuzhan Vong are incredibly based and have let go of all kind of consumption and have fully kind of accepted a community.
They clearly haven't. They're the Flintstones.
Yeah, that's true.
Fred and Barney would have been in the Peace Brigade.
Yeah, for sure. Fuckers.
Hey, boo boo, let's hunt some. That's Yogi.
That's Yogi Bear.
Still Hanna-Barbera, still counts.
Still there, yeah. Yabba dabba doo.
Was Yogi's voice actor Barney's as well? I think that's what got me there.
I
never thought about it before, but that got to be where that association came from.
It's got to be. I imagine it was like 6 dudes doing all of it, even the women. Yeah.
Grant, did you remember to take out the Jedi corpses tonight?
I'll do it later.
Kelbus Nu is starting to smell.
All right, Kelbus Nu. So that brings us to the other plot we've got going. We've got Anakin is on the errant venture. Well, let's just kind of talk about Anakin and Jason. So let's talk about the Jedi in total, or in general. So the Jedi are setting up kind of their refugee lanes. Basically, what do they call it again? Luke's Great River?
Build me a great river, Han, with no further instructions.
Yeah. Like Luke is in his. This is Luke's first girlfriend, so give him some slack. He kind of likes her a lot. But yeah. So they're trying to make this like route that will ferry Jedi and also supplies and ferry Jedi into the secret bases and out of secret bases. And we get Anakin and Tahiri. Tahiri's still recovering from the attempted Vong shaping from the past book. They're on the errant venture. And we see them go on an adventure where they go to Yogg-Dul.
An errant adventure?
Errant adventure. They go to Yogg-Dul with Corran Horn. They kiss for the first time. Very cute, very nice. And Jason is kind of... I'm trying to think of what Jason and... They run into Watto, maybe? Like...
Yeah.
Is that Watto?
That's got to be Watto. Watto's dead by now.
You think?
He's got to be. That's probably a thing that's been confirmed somewhere, if it is. But Anakin, or rather Jason, is off with Han and Leia, who we heard they were doing stuff in the last few books, which I think this is the first time we're really seeing what the hell they've been up to. But they're kind of like hunting down Peace Brigade pirates, trying to get people on board with their plans and stop all the Jedi hunting. Mm-hmm. But the big thing is just that Jason and Han are having their big philosophical blowout. Han's clearly made a lot of progress with his Chewie mourning. He's a lot better with Leia in this book. He makes a few comments and handles the Chewie death much better. But Jason is still an arrogant little piece of shit, talking about how like I don't know if he thinks the war will just go away.
Jason's a fucking moron. I'm getting tired of it. Getting tired of it. Yeah. But Leia reminded me of my mom in this when she has that talk with Jason where she's basically like, listen, your father and I will love you no matter what, but you might need to help us fight the war. Yeah.
And there is towards the end, like they meet with Talon Karrde in the cantina. We get a cool showdown there on Tatooine.
Not the cantina though.
No, a new cantina. It's explicitly the better cantina. Mm-hmm. But we get into an engagement where Han does some cool stuff with liquid hydrogen, and if he hadn't, then Leia would have reminded me a lot more of my mom because she would have been dead.
Nice.
I had to blow through the plot to get to that.
Yeah, it's Star Wars shouldn't handle science like that. Like I don't think it does a good job.
You didn't like that he jettisoned this small container and then it surrounded the entire ship and they were able to shoot through and
Yeah,
blow up
and Jason's like, it only worked because of the micro black hole, the quantum singularity, and it pulled all the gas. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. Like,
it only worked because it stayed still.
Sound travels in your universe. What are you talking about in the vacuum? Like, what are you actually talking about, Jason? Quantum black hole? Like, what the fuck does that actually mean?
Well, Leia does say, like, oh, well, this is great. We can use this more in the future. And Han's like, no, if it had moved slightly, it would have been the end of the universe. So
Han's
really
like,
clears it up for us.
No, I gotta go. By the way, I gotta go defend my fucking PhD in quantum physics. By the way,
I shoot funny canister at ship.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's parts like that I liked of Han in this book. Like he's got a couple of classic moments where like he does a really reckless maneuver, and Leia's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "I did it, didn't I?" Yeah. But then there's others. Like anytime Han starts talking about science, like he should be good at like engineering, mechanical stuff, totally. But when it's like, yeah,
he's creative and spunky though. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we did get some philosophy references with K-Quad and Nen Yim, where rather than fixing the world ship, he wants to make the perfect grasshopper. And we get the Plato's cave situation where you think you've seen some Gretchens before, but there's a perfect Gretchen out there, and I want my cutie pie grasshopper.
Yeah, that was fun. That whole scene was probably my favorite part of the book, other than the fact that I can only remember 4 Yu Zhanvang names. And
I completely forgot that Onimi did that. So
me too.
So yeah, anything else to say about Jason's story there? I don't really
I'm getting sick of it. Just fucking getting really sick of it.
He's better than next few books. Like we're leading up to the best Jason story ever in a couple.
And I can't wait till his brother dies. I'm just saying.
Well, that's 1 book from now.
Yeah.
We have the longest Star War coming up. But yeah, so Anakin, I guess, is Anakin, Tahiri, and Corran. They go on their supply run. They end up at Ariadu. They see a dead Jedi, or a Jedi dying, who whispers in nice Rhodian into their ear, McClunky, which means go to Yagdol.
Yeah.
And so they go to Yagdol, and they find out that Anakin and Tahiri kissed.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, Anakin, that's kind of weird. 2-year age gap. And then he's like, but to be honest, your sister is being hit on by Kipjaron, so it could be worse.
Is a 2-year age gap? I mean, 14 and...
No, if it's fine. 16? I was just joking.
Yeah, they were 14 and 16.
It was literally just for the... just for my joke, that's all.
Yeah. Well...
That's like what? Although, to be honest, that's the point where it gets really weird. Like, in grade 10, I never would have dated someone in grade 9.
Yeah.
But I mean, in America, in a lot of schools, that's like because in Canada, at least where I am, you've got junior high, which ends at 9, then high school that starts at 10. In Nova Scotia, at least, in dating down at school, But I know in many places in America, it's like you've got 4 years of high school, so
10.
Wait, well, don't most American high schools do? Don't they do like what's it called? Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, where it's like 4 years of high school.
That's what we do in Ontario as well.
Oh, that's what you do? Yeah, and here we do 3 years of high school. 3 years of junior high.
9 is okay. No, we don't have as much of a separation between like junior high and other stuff. Like for us, it's more kindergarten 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, really?
And then 9, 10, 11. Like there are some schools that are grades like kindergarten through grade 8. So I went to my first school was kindergarten through grade 3. My next school was 4 grades 4 through 8, but I got moved over to a 1 through 8 for program I was in, and then
for nerds, yeah,
makes sense. My nerd program, and then we had 9, 10, 11, 12 as high school. Like,
yeah, normally, so for here it's
6, 7, 8 or 7, 8 is considered middle school, but we never really had the exact break down like that.
Well, you were also kind of somewhere more rural, weren't you?
This so the first two schools I went to were in like a village outside of Niagara, but after
Okay.
that, the schools I went to for grade 6, 7, 8 in high school, those were all
Right.
in the big city of Niagara. So it
So
wasn't just that.
for here, it's you do primary, which is like, or now you have even pre-primary, which is like my son is in, and he's 3, he's turning 4. So you got pre-primary all the way to grade 6, and then and then junior high is grades 7, 8, and 9, and then high school is just 3 years, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, wild.
That's crazy.
Either way, if you're that's like 16 is like grade 10 and 14 is like grade 8. I couldn't have done that.
Well, let's say, yeah, like let's say that Anakin is a young 16 and Tahiri's an old 14, so maybe there's like only 14 months in there. It's hard
to see when
hard
the cutoff is. Yeah.
So it could be grade 10 and 9, maybe. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt there.
I remember very specifically, I was in grade 10 and I got asked out by a girl who was in grade 9 at a school in, like, not in the feeder school that I came from, but a different school. And I remember asking my fucking English teacher, his name was Miss Giffen. And I asked her, like, should I do it? She was like, she started shrieking, like, no, you can't do that, and just like screaming about it. So maybe that's affecting my kind of decision making.
Why would you ask a teacher about that?
Oh, Miss Giffen was just really cool. People would just go to her classroom and hang out. Like, she was just cool. She was just one of those teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know that any of our teachers at any of my schools ever gave much dating advice, to be honest, even the cool ones. I don't know that there's anyone in my classes who would ever have thought, who I should ask about this dating situation is a teacher. So that might be a you thing more than a... People would like...
This would have been like a situation where 4 of us probably left another class to go hang out in Miss Giffen's classroom, and she just put on a movie or something. She was just cool. Yeah. That's why I'm so educated.
So who's the Miss Giffen of the Jedi Academy? Is that Tion? Or Corrin? Corrin's a bit too strict, I think. He's a former cop.
Yeah. No. Not Corrin. Probably Tion, yeah.
Right, we're going with Tion.
Yeah. She plays music, which is a cool teacher thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know that there's much development or many plot relevant things that happen with Anakin, Tahiri, and Corrin other than they kiss before going on our big dangerous mission next book. Like, they went on this supply run, things went bad, they got to Yagdol, the Given are funny, they do math for names of stuff, which goes a little bit far. But
I can imagine them being super addicted to their phones. That's all I could imagine. Like, they're always like checking their fucking phones, like reading combat shit. Like, just talk to somebody,
Yeah.
Like, these are iPad kids taken to 1,000,000.
Yeah, these are the people that were in my class in grade 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
I was in a special Given class. All right. Do you want to give a ranking, or do you have any more notes you want to go over?
I think I covered most of my notes. Luke said, when did Rogue Squadron care about politics? When, like, that's the entire fucking point of the first 4 novels, but yeah, whatever. This is a C for me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. Yeah, especially when I was reading Lost Stars, which is like 1,000,000 times better. And especially the romance between Tahiri and Anakin, which I like, but like compared to Lost Stars, it's a C. Not bad, very average.
So I wasn't reading another Star Wars book at the same time, so my take at the time was a B, I think, going through it. But it's one of the ones that I could easily see myself dropping in context later on, once we do another re-ranking somewhere. So I'm putting it as a B for right now. Okay. You're putting it as a C?
Yep.
Right. So I don't know if we got any reviews. If you want to go into that, did you look?
Oh no, I'll look for next episode.
Okay. We got one email which I think we're gonna save for Andor, because it's about some Galactic Civil War stuff.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't we? I think we might have got one email about this when we were starting. Did we or no?
No, unless we got it in the last few minutes. Because
Okay.
it was the one about the Galactic Civil War was titled Rebirth.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But it was about the Galactic Civil War. So we'll
Okay.
get to that next time, Joel. We did get, I guess, a suggestion from Mark, who said an idea for a podcast is a series revisit, for example, in a show to talk about a whole series rather than each book. To rank them, pick out highlights and lowlights, etc. So for any revisiting stuff to potentially do it by series rather than by book.
Sure.
So that's a potential way to do it. My main concern with it would be that we wouldn't necessarily have time to actually read the books if we're doing like a full series for one podcast.
And if you don't read them, I can't. There's so many books. It's hard to kind of pick out the highlights without rereading it. Like if I'm thinking of like the Jedi Academy trilogy, it's hard for me to really think of all the highlights and lowlights without rereading it. Just to be honest.
Yeah, so like those kind of reviews, we tend to end up being more when we do the re-rankings or the ranking cleanups, which we might want to do before the end of the year.
Yeah, probably.
It's what episode are we on? This should be episode 119 of Tapcaf. Maybe for somewhere around 150, or probably before then. Who knows?
Yeah,
but we should definitely do that again sometime.
Yeah, I think the sacred timeline has become somewhat muddled. So
yeah,
a little cleanup could do everyone some good.
There you go. We're gonna Marie Kondo our rankings.
Yep. Fucking this book only brought me moderate amounts of joy. So.
Oh wow, it's going in the bin.
No, it's just moderate amount of joy. So I'm going to put it at a site and try not to think about it.
Okay, it goes in a desk drawer rather than on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a bookshelf situation that you're happy with? I know that was a thing you were worried about a few years ago.
Not right now. So I've got out in my my living room, I've got 3 shelves built into the wall where I've got all my Star Wars books now. But I would like them in the office somewhere. For me, it's like we really want a new house, so I'm trying not to collect too much shit. Just because it's more, I'm gonna have to move eventually. And honestly, my office is really small, so clutter builds up very quickly. Like if I had bookshelf, this is as far as I'd be able to, Yeah. So at some point, probably, but nothing as nice as I'm really jealous of your bookshelf setup.
It cost me like $75.
How did you get them from used, or what was the situation again?
They're just like the IKEA most basic bookshelf.
That was the one I was going to get to. The what's it called again? Whatever. There's the one bookshelf that everyone fucking gets. Yeah. That's what I was going to do too.
Yeah, I recommend it. There's nothing wrong with them. I wanted like a different color, like more of a wood grain kind of thing, rather than the straight black or straight white. But for that, you have to get like one step up, which triples the price basically. So like,
yeah, that was another one of the things for me. They only had one of the colors available, and I didn't like it. But yeah, this has been the bookshelf discussion hour. Was there anything else you wanted to mention? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, we got.
What was the genesis of that discussion again?
We were just talking about.
Oh, re-rankings, right?
Yeah. And you said this didn't bring you much joy, so Marie Kondo. Get rid of the book, and then I got reminded
of a tenuous connection.
Well, I got reminded of the prior discussions we've had about like office and book stuff, and I was wondering, as your friend, if you had gone anywhere with that.
If I were gonna stay in this house, I've got a big rec room right out there. I would cut that in half and make it half my office, because it's like it would be this wide, but it would be much kind of further this way. So, but that's a big job. I'm not handy.
But do the women find you handsome?
Not particularly, no.
Then you are not following Red's tenets.
No, I can't make a truck hot tub or go pick up a bunch of women. So I'm pretty much a Canadian failure.
I wonder if Bill is still alive. I'd be sad if I looked up Rick Green. He was dead. Because that was the guy that's actually named Rick Green, right? Bill?
Yeah.
And then Steve Smith was Red Green. But anyways, we have Andor, not tomorrow, next week.
Mm-hmm.
That is the 22nd, 21st, 20-something, 22nd. Week after that is allegedly going to be Lost Stars. See, what I was thinking was going to happen was we'd do Andor, Tales of the Jedi or something, and then we'd have I guess the 6th is going to be okay. No, what we're just okay. No, what you were saying makes more sense. So Andor next week. Plan on Lost Stars the week after. If we can't, I kind of really want to do that with Alex, so we maybe work that around whether he's available or not. If not, throw in Tales of the Jedi or just do the show episode. Show episode after that, and then ideally on the 6th, unless something else gets moved, we do Destiny or Star by Star. That is the current plan.
Both the red green guys are still alive.
Now that is epic. And with that good news, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember, keep your stick on the ice.
I can't remember what else they say. What is the other sayings they have in red green? I can't remember.
If the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy, but we kind of covered that already.
Yeah.
Harold, you suck.
Okay. I'm finding that the red... Okay, anyway. So, do you want to